story we have been following throughout the past 2 days surrounds the superstar herself, Caitlin Clark, the WNBA star, the Indiana Fever star, Caitlin Clark. She's going to miss all the action on the court.
Caitlin Clark gets hurt, and guess what? Your demand vanishes because people ain't going to pay up to see these athletes that are ungrateful that their sport's growing. People aren't paying up for that. And we are here, right here. The tickets for this game, for this All-Star game, they've dropped by 50%.
What was supposed to be Caitlin Clark's grand coronation, her triumphant homecoming in Indianapolis, turned into a nightmare for the WNBA, the city, and the fans who showed up expecting a celebration. For months, the build-up was nothing short of spectacular. The city of Indianapolis pulled out all the stops. They erected a giant 34-story mural of Clark on the side of the JW Marriott, so massive it became a selfie destination for visiting fans. At the airport, they laid out a replica of the All-Star Court so travelers could feel the excitement. The moment they landed, restaurants stocked extra food and drinks, stores filled their shelves with Fever and All-Star merchandise, hotels hired more staff, and the WNBA leaned right in. Tickets to the All-Star Game at Gainbridge Fieldhouse sold out within hours. Prices on the resale market skyrocketed, with average seats reselling for...
You come to Indianapolis, look, this is what everybody's been talking about. This right here, Caitlin Clark, the banner right there on the JW Marriott. It is 34 stories banner, unbelievable. Is the largest banner ever on the JW Marriott. You may think about the bracket. Remember back in the NCAA tournament back in 2021? Yeah, it's bigger than that as well. 113,000 square feet. It is unbelievable. And you see what it says, from downtown in my town. No doubt, this is something that is grabbing everyone's attention. And who else better to be on that than the star herself, Caitlin Clark?
Indiana $262. The highest ever for a WNBA All-Star Game. Some premium seats fetched thousands. Even the cheapest get-in tickets stayed around $120. The entire weekend was set up as a showcase of everything the WNBA could be. Record crowds, national buzz, and the hometown hero playing under the brightest lights. But then came July 17th. On that day, Caitlin Clark's groin injury was announced on social media, and everything unraveled. You didn't need an economics degree to understand what was happening. The ticket market collapsed.
Really unfortunate that Caitlin Clark missed it. The crowd would have been exploding. The crowd would have been exploding. The arena would have been exploding. Oh man, a big miss as far as the WNBA is concerned.
Collapsed in real time. The $262 average resale price plummeted to just $64 within hours, a 75% crash. Even the cheapest tickets dropped to about $65. Sellers panicked and slashed prices even further, yet buyers still weren't biting. What was supposed to be a dream scenario became a brutal lesson in supply and demand, and it played out on public platforms hour by hour. Even before this, there were warning signs. Earlier in the season, when Clark missed regular season games due to a quad injury, ticket prices dropped sharply, down 47% in Washington and a staggering 71% in Chicago. But those were regular season games. This was the All-Star Game. This was supposed to be the event, and yet it collapsed even more dramatically. Her absence exposed something.
From $121 all the way down to just $64 after news broke that Caitlin Clark won't be playing. These are people saying, I'm done. I don't want to watch. Caitlin Clark's not. I bought tickets solely to watch Caitlin Clark in the All-Star Game. I made accommodations solely to get to Indiana to watch Caitlin Clark in the All-Star Game. She's injured. I have no interest in that anymore. People are selling their tickets so much so they just want off of them. 121, okay. You want it for 100? Oh no, okay. I guess I gotta lower it to 80. Oh, you don't want to buy it for 80? Okay, I guess I'll lower it to 70. You don't want to buy it to 70? I guess I'll lower it to $64. The WNBA is paying attention to these trends, and they're seeing firsthand what Caitlin Clark is worth to this league.
Thing the league likely didn't want to admit. Publicly, their record-setting attendance, revenues, and viewership were being carried largely, almost entirely, by one player. Without her, the facade cracked. For the first time in nearly 2 years, Gainbridge Fieldhouse faced the prospect of its first non-sellout, and on the league's biggest stage, no less. The ripple effects were everywhere. Vendors who invested thousands into merchandise watched unsold boxes stack up. Restaurants and bars braced for empty tables instead of standing room only.
The ticket prices, the demand fell off a cliff. And it's not just the on-court product that suffers without number 22, Caitlin Clark. The entire weekend's economic opportunities have felt the fallout.
Crowds, hotels prepared for cancellations. But beyond the economics, something deeper was revealed: who actually drives interest in the WNBA when other star players sit out. Ticket prices hardly budge. But with Clark gone, the league's marquee weekend turned into a cautionary tale. For months, people like her fever coach, Stephanie White, had been warning the league about how she was being treated on the court. Battered game after game with excessive, unchecked physicality, but nothing changed. What fans saw every night was ugly basketball, defenders hooking her arms, hammering her off screens, grabbing her on drives, all without calls. The Washington Post didn't mince words.
But when it comes to the vendors in the arena, the shops in the arena, they're not going to have the same amount of people patronize their business as they would if Caitlin Clark was there. The surrounding restaurants, the surrounding areas, the surrounding attractions, they're not going to have the same number of people patronize their business as they would if Caitlin Clark was healthy.
Words, calling the officiating chronically lousy and suggesting the league should change its logo to a bruise and its slogan to no call. It sounds like hyperbole, but the video clips prove otherwise. What made it worse is that in other leagues, star players are protected because everyone understands they're the draw. The NBA has always ensured that its most marketable players, Michael Jordan, Kobe Bryant, LeBron James, aren't treated like punching bags. But in the WNBA, Clark was left out to dry. Over the last 2.5 seasons, the league has seen 57 head and neck injuries.
This year, for the second time ever, the WNBA All-Star Game was supposed to feature an actual star. Normally, this celebration of pretend basketball features players that no one's ever heard of.
Most of them suffered by guards and small forwards like Clark. Lisa Leslie herself warned that groin injuries are tricky, sometimes taking months or years to fully heal. This wasn't bad luck. It was the predictable outcome of neglect, and when the crisis hit, all eyes turned to Commissioner Kathy Engelbert to show some leadership.
How did we get to an All-Star Game in Indiana where Caitlin Clark is not healthy enough to play? Well, it all started last year, in her rookie season, where she received 20% of all the flagrant fouls in the league. And most of them came from Angel Reese in the Chicago Sky. And these weren't basketball plays. They were not only fouling her, but they were getting up, laughing about it, laughing about Caitlin Clark getting assaulted. Any other work environment, people go to jail for what's going on.
Fans wanted accountability. They wanted acknowledgement of what everyone could see, that the officials had failed to protect the league's most important player, and a concrete plan to fix it. What they got instead was corporate speak. Engelbert held a meeting with over 40 players and stakeholders and called it productive and constructive, but never addressed the real issue. Fans didn't care about a dial.
Yeah, I mean, there's a level of physicality that they're able to play with against her. You know, I knew it as an opponent, and I see it as her coach. And you know, I'm not exactly sure why, but it just is what it is. And we've got to help her learn to adjust and use it against them in certain ways. You know, we've got to find some ways to make it a little bit easier for her. But the level of physicality overall in our league has been at a different level than it's been for a long time.
Dialogue or shared goals. They wanted the league to stop allowing Clark to get clobbered every night. When your biggest moneymaker goes down and your response is platitudes, you're telling fans you don't get it, and the All-Star Game itself It was supposed to be a showcase, a night of great basketball, energy, and competition. Instead, it felt like a lifeless scrimmage. Empty seats dotted the arena. The energy was flat. Players barely played. Defense, the gimmicky 4-point shot only made things worse. Fans got what one journalist called a glorified layup line, players jacking up shots from ridiculous distances. No real strategy, no competitive fire. The weekend's most viral moment didn't even come from the game. It came from the New York Liberty's mascot, who spent All-Star Weekend trying.
And last year, I noticed how much it was just Caitlin Clark. Caitlin Clark was taking all the hits. Caitlin Clark was taking all the abuse. But this year they've added Sophie Cunningham. She gets more flagrant fouls on her than anybody in the league besides Caitlin Clark. And Aaliyah Boston, she's been taking hits as well. But the worst thing is the consistency. So they don't call flagrant fouls, or most of the time, Caitlin Clark could be held for an entire game at a time. They don't call fouls. They don't call common fouls. But then when it's the Indiana Fever, guess what? Touch foul here, touch foul here. They call absolutely nothing.
To recruit Clark, that one goofy mascot generated more buzz than the entire All-Star product on the court. Without Clark, the event was stripped bare. Fans stayed away, and the message couldn't have been louder. She is the reason they're watching. The WNBA has spent months crowing about record viewership, attendance, and growth, but the All-Star Weekend laid bare how fragile that success really is. Take Clark out of the equation, and suddenly the league struggles to fill seats, sell tickets, and engage its audience. That reality is dangerous, and it's entirely self-inflicted. We're handed a once-in-a-generation talent who was breaking records, drawing millions of new viewers, and breathing life into the league. Instead of protecting her, they let her get battered into an injury that sidelined her from her own coronation. And then, rather than confronting the problem, they hid behind boardroom jargon. The result was a disaster and a wasted opportunity. All-Star Weekend wasn't just about Clark missing a game. It was about the league failing to protect its future. Fans made their feelings known with their wallets, their tweets, and their absence. They're tired of seeing the league fail to protect what matters most. This doesn't have to be the end of Caitlin Clark's story, but it could be the beginning of the end. For a league that refuses to learn from its mistakes. Because if they keep allowing their biggest star to be treated like a punching bag and responding with weak leadership, they risk squandering all the momentum Clark brought with her. The league was handed everything: record attention, new audiences, new sponsors, and a generational talent. Instead of guarding that with everything they had, they let her get hurt, watched their biggest weekend collapse, and offered nothing but vague promises. The All-Star Game that was supposed to crown Caitlin Clark instead revealed how vulnerable the WNBA really is. If the league doesn't change, if it doesn't protect its players and actually deliver the product fans want, there may not be a next time. So now a
bunch of players and coaches of the last few days have complained without being fine-worthy about officiating. I just want to see about your thoughts on if officiating is an issue and how it can be improved, because clearly there seems to be problems or a disconnect between what players and coaches feel and what officials are actually calling.
The question is this: will they finally listen, or will they keep making the same mistakes until it's too late? Let us know in the comments below if you think the WNBA can recover from this and learn its lesson. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications so you never miss a breakdown like this one. Click the video on screen now to watch our next deep dive. We'll see you there. The stage was set for a fairy tale. Instead, it turned into a cautionary tale.
I know as a fan of sports for 60 years now, I know that, no one's ever happy with officiating. All sports deal with it, but we're working hard to make sure we're putting the best product out on the court, and our officiating then follows that.
Indianapolis thought it was about to host the biggest party the WNBA had ever seen, a homecoming fit for its brightest star, Caitlin Clark. For weeks, the city buzzed with anticipation. You couldn't walk downtown without seeing her face on banners, murals, merchandise. The piece de resistance was a jaw-dropping 34-story mural of Clark plastered on the JW Marriott, dominating the skyline and Instagram feeds alike. The WNBA leaned into the moment, touting record ticket sales, record demand. Within hours of going on sale, tickets to the All-Star Game at Gainbridge Fieldhouse were gone. Resale prices soared into the hundreds, with premium seats crossing into the thousands. It was billed as the culmination of a historic rookie season, Clark's coronation in front of her hometown crowd. But then reality came crashing down. On July 17th, the announcement hit. Caitlin Clark was out with a groin injury. And just like that, the dream dissolved and the numbers told the story. Tickets that had averaged $1 to $6.2 on the resale market plummeted almost overnight, falling to just $64. Even at those bargain basement prices, buyers weren't biting. People who'd bought tickets.
They play against Breanna Stewart. She goes to the line 14 times. Asia Wilson goes to the line 13 times. And Aaliyah Boston can't play 20 minutes in a game without being on the bench in foul trouble. That's another problem that we're dealing with. But like I said, this year, it's not just Caitlin Clark. If you wear that Indiana Fever jersey, consider it done. The refs are not going to be fair, and they are going to cheat and do whatever it takes to do what the higher-ups say.
It's as investments scrambled to unload them, taking huge losses. Vendors and local businesses, who'd stocked up in anticipation of record crowds, braced for empty tables and unsold inventory. It wasn't just a bad break. It was an unmasking, exposing something uncomfortable about the WNBA's current success. Without Caitlin Clark, the league's biggest event of the year became something few people wanted to see. This wasn't the first warning. Earlier in the season, when Clark missed games due to a quad injury, ticket prices in Washington and Chicago cratered by nearly half and more than 70%, respectively. But those were regular season games. This was supposed to be the All-Star Game. This was supposed to be bulletproof, yet here it was, unraveling, and it wasn't just the resale markets taking a hit. Indianapolis businesses, which had invested thousands into preparing for the weekend, saw their expected windfall evaporate. Restaurants canceled extra orders, hotels adjusted staffing plans, merchants stared at boxes of shirts and posters.
I mean, you're going to mess around, and a large, massive group of fans are going to be like, enough is enough. We've never had to see anything like it in sports, but you don't see these other leagues going around talking crazy about their fan bases all the time, like this league does. It's continuous. They're running their mouth about the people that are paying money to see them. You don't have other jobs where people walk up. You're in a public job that's in front of the world.
That no one wanted anymore. The empty seats at Gainbridge Fieldhouse, the first time in 2 years that venue hadn't sold out for a Fever-related event, were more than a bad look. They were proof of just how fragile the WNBA's current boom really is. Because here's the truth, when other star players miss games, ticket prices don't collapse like this. The economic freefall that followed Clark's injury made one thing clear. The WNBA's record-breaking season has been riding almost entirely on her back, and it didn't have to be this way for months. Her coach, Stephanie White, had been sounding the alarm. Clark was being subjected to a level of physicality that bordered on dangerous. Pulled, shoved, hooked, fouled, night after night, while officials swallowed their whistles. The Washington Post called the officiating second-rate and even joked that the WNBA should change its logo to a bruise. That wasn't hyperbole, it was real.
Mascot is going through Caitlin's shit. Yeah, just going through, I'm going to tell you, Leah Boston, let's break down her face right now. I am not happy with the Liberty mascot invaded our home turf right here. I mean, that mascot's cute. That mascot's cute. It is. She's having fun, but, you know, it's the Liberty mascot. So, of course, that is what everybody notices, right? After the meeting, the WWE style meeting in the back of the arena, right? As the heels are all meeting together, Breanna Stewart and Sabrina and Sandy Barndello, basically the Liberty, and of course the recruiting into the Four Horsemen, They're recruiting Caitlin Clark.
Reality. Clips of Clark being grabbed by both arms, slammed off screens, and fouled on drives with no call, flooded social media. And what made it worse was the contrast. Other leagues protect their stars. The NBA understands that its biggest draws, Jordan, Kobe, LeBron, need to stay healthy and in the game. Not in the trainer's room, but in the WNBA, Clark was left to fend for herself. Over the last 2.5 seasons, the league has seen 57 head and neck injuries, many of them to guards and small forwards like her. And this groin injury, it wasn't some fluke. It was a predictable outcome of allowing defenders to treat the most valuable player in the league like a tackling dummy. Even WNBA legend Lisa Leslie warned that groin injuries can linger for months or even years if mishandled. And here it was, the result of months of abuse met with silence. So when the crisis finally hit, when the league's crown jewel was sidelined on the eve of her coronation, everyone waited to see what WNBA Commissioner Kathy Engelbert would do. Would she finally address the officiating issues that everyone could see? Not even close. Instead of leadership, fans got corporate spin. Engelbert held a meeting with players and called it constructive and productive, but she offered no concrete solutions, no accountability. Fans didn't want to hear about shared goals and dialogue. They wanted the league to protect the player who had single-handedly elevated the sport. And then came the game itself, the All-Star Game. Once billed as the WNBA's showcase event, turned into something closer to a scrimmage. Empty seats dotted the arena. The energy was flat. Players went through the motions. The gimmicky 4-point shot only made things worse, turning the contest into what one writer called a glorified layup line. Players launching deep shots. No defense, no intensity. It was supposed to be a celebration of elite basketball. Instead, it looked like a summer camp drill. And the most talked about moment of the weekend, not the game, not the highlights, but the New York Liberty's mascot, who spent the weekend openly recruiting Clark, ended up generating more buzz than the player.